What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the One Deeper podcast. Today I'm joined by Elias, Schlie, a close friend of mine, and today we talk about the truth. What does it mean? How do we get to it? What are the limitations? Really interesting conversation, for me at least. I hope you enjoyed. Please check out Elias's podcast. Also, great material and conversations. So, thanks again for joining. Catch you again next time. What's up, bro?
What's up, bro? Nice to see you.
Yeah, you too. I'm glad finally get you on my podcast. I've been going to be a couple of times on yours now. But so let's jump right into it. What I want to talk about was truth.
Yeah.
And some time ago, I remember Jordan Peterson and Sam Harris had like 3 different debates. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's basically 3 hours of these guys trying to agree on what the hell the truth is. But I thought maybe we'd have better luck on this for some reason. But anyway, before you start, Amir Ali's podcast on your show, that was really good. And one thing the things he wants to do, like with other people, encourage them to help individuals to be who they all this stuff is like, I'm like, why would you not want to do that for your own children? Right?
Because he doesn't want to have children.
I know. But so I was thinking that seems kind of selfish. So basically, he wants all. So imagine if everybody applied his logic.
Yeah.
Right. He would have no one to do what he wants to do in his life with.
But I think his opinion to not have children is not that he thinks it's bad to have children. I think it's more that he personally is afraid of doing something wrong, maybe.
Exactly. Yeah. So he wants all the upside, but none of the downside. Right?
None of the risk.
Yeah, none of the risk. Yeah. None of the risk of
being the one doing something wrong.
Like having children, of course, is unbelievably risky. Yeah. Being a child is risky. And having kids is, it's a... So he wants to be able to reap the rewards of having all these young people around who need guidance, who need help, who need a path, who need someone to tell them you're capable, you're all. I love him, by the way. Like this is all amazing. Like, of course, this is like a lot of things like I share with him that I want to do as well, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's kind of funny because it seems to me like he wants all the upside and none of the risk of doing it, right? But also, I'm curious about what you think about this, like in terms of doing rational things, right?
Yeah.
So one thing I think about is that, so one way to think about what you should do is think about it in terms of iterations, right? So if you're going to do this today, what would happen? What would be the net outcome if you ran this same behavior over 1,000 iterations?
You mean as a heuristic to decide what you're going to do?
Yeah. So to see so to push a decision all the way to the limit and see if I do this today in this situation and I repeat this situation over and over again, what would be the end state, generally speaking?
Are you thinking about karting or
no? I'm just thinking about just in general, right?
Yeah. So,
for example, if just some, I don't know, think of something.
Karting.
Okay.
Karting was we had, for people listening, we had a discussion where we are kind of like a little group and everyone wanted to go karting except me, because I was like, I decided that I don't want to do things just because they are fun. And maybe this is an example for, I know it's not bad to go karting with you boys because it's going to be a really, really nice day and we're going to have a lot of fun. But if you think about it in the limit, if you think about it, maybe this is what I try to say. If you do this again and again and again, if you think about this is my life, I'm only going to do things like this, then it's not the thing I want to do.
Yeah.
But one time is not bad. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a thing, right? So another way to generalize this is you can imagine you doing something over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of it being you, you could parallelize it and say, what if everybody did at the same time,
Yeah.
right? So in that lens, if you think of, I'm not going to have children, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's immediately, it's hard to imagine the situation for your own life, which is like, oh, I'm just not going to have kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then imagine you generalize that instead of over and over again in your life, just to everybody at once. What would be the net outcome? The net outcome would be no people,
Yeah.
right? And everything he finds meaning in his life would vanish.
That is true, but
It's like a it's like a self-terminating belief.
so. But I think, especially like for having children,
Yeah.
you don't influence so many people. Like, there are still going to be a lot of people that are going to have children. And I think he also doesn't say that there's anything bad with having children. I think more that it's more like...
No, I'm just curious.
Yeah.
I'm just curious what he would think about this. Like,
Yeah.
because he's obviously a very reasonable guy, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying he should have kids. I'm not saying anybody should have kids. Like,
Yeah.
But from a purely like a thought exercise perspective, right? Like, you have these certain things that give your life meaning,
Mm-hmm.
right? But you have a outlook and behavior that would be self-terminating for that thing that gives you meaning. Like, it does not propagate the thing that gives you meaning. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, isn't that a bit of a conflict there?
I think it would be if he would say that people should not have children.
Yeah, it's like...
But he doesn't say that
He doesn't
people
say that,
should
yeah,
not
yeah.
have children.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
just says he doesn't want to have children because it's his own... I don't know, he's afraid, or maybe,
So what
doing
about...
something wrong. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. But like, I was thinking about it. I was really thinking about it. And I was like,
Yeah.
I'm curious what he thinks about this. But anyway, that's a whole
We
different...
got, 1 second. By the way, we're talking about a podcast I did with Amir Ali, Reza Zadeh.
Yeah.
That's it.
I'll put the link to the show notes.
Yeah.
So anyway, what we're talking about is yesterday you posted something in our group chat. You want to tell us what it was?
So yesterday I am thinking about the word rationality and what is rational, what is objective, and what is truth a lot, and especially the thing what is objective, because I'm trying to find objective meaning, the objective meaning in life, and Udesh and some other people are challenging me on this a lot. So what do I mean by objective? Is it even possible to say what objective is? So I'm trying to find a good definition. And yesterday I came across a definition that I think is maybe pretty good. And I found it. I think Neil deGrasse Tyson or something. He said this, and I was like, maybe this is a good definition for what is objective. And he says that objective truth is something that is true whether you believe in it or not. And objective meaning, like this is what I spun out of it. Objective meaning would be a goal that is better than other goals, whether you believe in it or not. And this is basically what I texted into the group yesterday, and I think this is a nice definition of what is objective.
Let's start with the precursor, which is objective truth.
Yes.
Right. Something which is real, whether you believe in it or not.
Yes.
Okay. So let's talk about the objective truth about reality.
Yeah.
Okay. So physical reality. Let's make it super concrete, right?
Yeah.
Like the physical reality of the universe, like atoms. I'm talking about the physical reality of the universe, right? I like to think of an evolutionary process, right? So let's just broadly define what an evolutionary process is, Okay, an evolutionary process, an evolution by natural selection. Okay, let's make it even more concrete. Okay, an evolutionary, the way I think about it, okay, an evolutionary process, evolution by natural selection, is a iterative process by which you converge on the truth of physical reality.
What do you mean by this?
Right. So
this is not how I would define.
So
Okay.
this is how I'm thinking about it. This is how I'm thinking about it. Okay. So natural selection. What is natural selection? Natural selection is a mechanism by which an organism that is in some way adapted to the environment
is more likely to survive.
More likely to survive and reproduce, and it comes to take over the ecosystem, the environment, compared to maladaptive variants that don't reproduce and thus are eliminated from the population.
Yeah.
Okay. So to me, evolution and natural selection seems like a process by which you are constantly trying to match the environment, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
you try, okay, yeah.
Imagine,
I understand what
like,
you mean. You natural selection tries to like. It not really tries, but
it doesn't have a conscious.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
not trying to do anything.
It tries to build things that are the most adapted to the circumstances.
Yeah. So now, if you're concerned with the nature of the world, right?
Yeah.
Nature of reality.
Yeah.
Okay. You can look to an evolutionary history and to see what things are as close to real as we can get it, right? Right?
Because they survive.
Yeah, because they survive. Right? Because we want to know what is the world, what is this world that we inhabit, right? Imagine we don't know anything. Imagine we don't know anything about the world, right? And we have to boot up some understanding of reality from nothing, right?
Yeah.
You would want a process that can iteratively adjust itself and like go up and down, change a little. A process that is able to modify the structure of the organism to iteratively, little by little, step by step, converge towards something that is as real as it gets. Right? Like, let's take our. Let's take what's a good example? Like say eyes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if you go back billions of years, it started out with the ability to distinguish light from dark.
Yeah.
Like light areas from dark areas. And then you progress more and more, right? But what does that say about the nature of light? Like what does that tell us about what light is?
Eyes.
Yeah.
So I don't know if okay, my thought on this is, so you say the development through natural selection makes us get closer to true reality, because if you would not be close to true reality, you would die.
Yeah, and I'm not saying
you would be selected against.
And I'm using the environment as a proxy for reality. Like because I don't know if that's reasonable. Like I don't know if that makes sense or that's, I don't know. But I'm using the environment as a proxy for reality.
The thing is, do we really have to become more like closer to true reality, or can there be like shortcuts that are not like true but helpful? That make it like us more likely to survive, but we don't really like see the full reality.
Yeah.
Like,
so this is totally possible.
Yeah.
Right. And one of the things that your brain does a lot is hide a lot of the complexity for you. Like it hides a lot of the complexity in the world, so that you can actually exist and do stuff with it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. For example, when you're driving a car, when you buy a car, or when you're driving a car, it's a thing that takes you from point A to point B, or you enjoy driving. Whatever the reason it is you're driving, like it takes you from that to this thing. All the complexity of all the mechanics, all the internal chaos that makes a car what it is hidden behind the dashboard.
Yeah.
Right? You have a nice display, tells you how fast you're going, your temperature, all kinds of shit.
Yeah.
But none of the shit matters until it breaks. Then you're like, then all that complexity that is hidden underneath just fucking comes out. Like, okay, what the hell did I break? How did it break? What does it mean for my life? What does it mean for my day to day? What does it mean for my day tomorrow? Like, should I change my entire life? Like, am I a bad person? So all the things that were previously hidden comes out. So your brain does a lot of this. Your brain does a lot of like keeping stuff in check so that you can focus on what you're doing. Like, for example, if I asked you the color of the walls in your classroom when you go to a lecture, you would have no fucking idea.
Yeah, probably white. I don't know.
Yeah, probably white. But you have no idea, right? You have no idea what the patterns on the carpet are.
Yeah.
What the color of the color of your professor's bow tie or what the fuck it was. None of that shit's relevant to you because like your brain, you have a goal, and goals tend to filter out things that don't matter in pursuit of the things that do matter.
Yeah, and it would be really bad if they would not.
Exactly. If that didn't happen, then one of the biggest things that goals do is it eliminates things that are not relevant and focus you on things that are relevant, right? And the more precisely defined your goal, the more precisely oriented you are, the less shit starts to bother you, right?
Yeah.
Like this is why people ask me like, aren't you bothered by A, B, C, D thing happening? And I'm like, no. They're like, oh, you're so heartless. I'm like, no, I'm not heartless. I am just focused on something. And that makes everything else seem very irrelevant.
Yeah.
So all this to bring back to the idea that you're right. So it could be a bunch of heuristics. But if you look back, if you look back long enough, I think we can learn a lot of things, right? Like, think about the evolution of storing body fat.
Yeah.
Okay. Or storing fat or storing energy at all in any just storing energy. Like, so I actually looked into this. It's like a really, really old evolution, like billions of years old, storing energy in the cell. It's really old.
Yeah.
Okay. So what does that tell us about the environment? Like, it's like this inbuilt knowledge that the environment is random. Like, you don't know.
So whenever you have food, you store it in case you don't see.
You don't know, like that. Like, there's this idea. It's like this. Even if
is it that? Could it also, like, it's like this specific example? It could also be that the environment is cyclical, like that. Every 20 hours you get food, and that's why you have to. I mean,
we have the circadian rhythm.
Yeah.
Right. That's evolutionarily trained.
Yeah,
right.
True.
Many organisms have a circadian rhythm.
Yeah.
Right, and they're adapted to fucking physical movements of the sun around the planets and all this other stuff.
So you say when we look at life, at things that evolved, then from that we can infer a lot of truth about the environment they evolved in.
Yeah, I think, like, I'm just thinking of it as a convergence towards the truth, right?
Yeah.
That there is some underlying truth which we might never find. That might be might be an illusion. Like a layer is it's like we're stuck in a simulation, and the simulation keeps throwing up different layers of truth, and then there's never going to be an end of it. Like there's like a never-ending recursive loop that just keeps building up levels and levels, and you're all like, oh, a new truth, a new truth, a new truth, like, and it never ends, which is actually would be awesome, right? We would, like, that's it. Like, we will always be able to find something new and fundamentally interesting about the world. Like, for a long time we thought atoms were it. Like, atoms were atoms. That's it.
That's the smallest part.
Yeah, and then you smash them together. You're like, oh, actually, there's more shit inside.
Yeah.
And like, we actually thought atoms were just like things, but now we know atoms are in themselves like complex systems of like distributions. Like, electrons are not like things; they're like all kinds of weird things happen. Right?
Yeah.
So,
this what you say, is this really truth? That, like, you say it converges towards truth, but what? Like, this is not my definition of truth. Like, I would say.
Yeah. So let's talk about exactly. So what is it? What is? I don't know. I think I'm more like, it's true enough. What is truth?
The thing is, it depends. Like, I think this, you can also call this truth. Like, I think, for example, also Jordan Peterson, he calls, like, for him, truth is things that are useful as well. Like, but I would define truth is like an attribute that a proposition can have, and like a proposition can be either, like, this is the definition of a proposition. A proposition is a sentence or a claim that can be either true or false, and so truth is an attribute of a proposition. It's not like okay, evolution converges towards truth. What does it mean? Like,
and I don't mean evolution just like in biological sense.
Yeah.
I mean any evolutionary process. Like an evolutionary process, it doesn't necessarily have to be biological.
Okay, I would say this is. I would say evolution converges towards optimal survival. Like it
Right.
or, like,
Okay,
it's not truth.
Right,
It's different.
But if you what if you look long enough in time,
Yeah.
right? So there is noise. So imagine a signal.
Mhm.
Okay, a signal, like an audio signal.
Yeah.
There is noise, which is like all the little bumps, all the little
Yeah,
bumps
yeah.
going on, and there's signal, which is like the actual long waveform.
Yeah.
Right. If you focus too narrowly on the noise,
Mm-hmm.
you don't really know anything. What you want is to capture the signal, that the long trend of what's changing, what's not changing.
Yeah.
Right. So, for example, storing energy.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That seems to be like a capturing of a long wavelength
Mm-hmm.
signal, that there is going to be randomness in when you are going to encounter food
Yeah.
and energy. And organisms that were able to encounter more energy than they need at the moment, but were able to develop a mechanism for storing energy that they found, did better than those that didn't. Right? And then those survived, and then they came to be.
But I would, let's say, if you use the word truth, then we could say, okay, this sentence you make, that the environment must be random. This is a proposition, and this can be true or false. So this proposition can have the statement true or false. And your argument for this is that you find it in even like super long ago, in the, like, since billions of years, this is done. Like, so this is an argument for truth, but I'm uncomfortable with just saying like truth is, like, evolution goes towards truth, because like there is no proposition in evolution. There's just facts that you can use to find out what is true. And I really agree that this is a really, really good way to find facts. Like, if you look back, because like this is like with a long wave, what you say, like when it exists for so long, then it's a pretty strong indicator that there's truth in there.
Yeah, like a book.
Yeah.
Like why do we still read Seneca? And like, why is it still, like, thousands of years later, why is the Bible still the most read book on the planet?
I would not say because it's true.
No, it's not true.
Yeah.
It's more than true, maybe.
Nah.
Like,
This is
so when you watch a great movie, a great drama,
Yeah.
or Shakespeare's plays, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just to take an example, or Dostoevsky,
Yeah.
or take any fiction or
Yeah.
whatever, right? You can't discount the fact that they have survived. There
Yes,
has to be
that is
something.
true.
There has to be something about this that makes it so, right? This has to be
Yes.
taken into account.
Yeah.
Like, this is the fundamental problem that I have with a lot of people who are like, oh, fuck it. Like, it's just like people discount the fact that it's so. For me, survival is a big deal.
That's true. So the just the fact that it
survived is something you have to take. Like,
Yeah.
It might not mean anything. It might not mean anything in the end calculus, but it's not something you can at the beginning. You can't discount this. The fact that it survived is important. The fact that it survived, you have from a you can consider even the survival of books as an evolutionary process, right?
True. Everything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Ideas are very much like this,
Yeah.
right? Technologies are very much like this. The spread of technology,
Yeah.
right? And for me, survival is a big deal.
But I wouldn't use the word truth for that. Like, it truly is an important thing. And like survival, you can infer a lot from survival. But when something survives, it doesn't make it true. It just makes it good at surviving. And truth is something connected to it, but it's not the same. I wouldn't be, because if we use the same word for both, then we're like watering the word truth, and then it's like then the word truth doesn't mean anything really anymore. If you call things true just because they survive, then what is truth in the end? Like, then yeah, I don't know if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I
But
don't
it's
know.
like-
I'm trying to find a working definition for this.
Yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I mean? Like a workable definition of like a workable heuristic, right? Because people argue about what, like we're doing, but what the hell the truth is, or like what is objectively true,
Yeah.
right? And this seems to me like an unconstrained problem. If you have to add some constraints on it, right? Like for example, you have to eat, you have to exist, you have to live, you have to like,
Yeah.
and biology adds a lot of constraints. Biology and physical reality adds a lot of constraints on what can and can't be, right? And the job of physicists, for example, is to figure out what those constraints on reality are, for the most part.
So you say truth is what physical.
I don't know what truth is.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
trying to put some boundaries on this, so that
Yeah.
this can be
Okay,
tackled.
so a thought to the sentences you just said, like you have to eat, you have to. So this is all just those are like actions you can do if you have a goal. So this is connected to a meaning or to a goal, because you don't have to do anything if you don't have the goal to survive, maybe, or then you don't have to eat if you don't have. But so if we think about now, what truth is, what like the word truth means, I think the stuff we were talking about, the survival, we have to give it a different name. So because it's not true when something survives. Like it can also, things can survive just out of sheer luck. Like it's possible that something.
No, but
yeah,
I
know.
agree.
Yeah.
But given a long enough time period, that luck
It's
possibility
super unlikely.
it's very unlikely,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like, so when someone reads the Bible, which I have not read, I've
Yeah.
tried. I try. Like I.
I read pretty much of the Bible.
Okay,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So like, if you read that and you're like, 6,000 years ago, that makes no sense, right?
Yeah.
And like all the other stuff, like the floods or stuff, it makes no sense.
Yeah.
Like, what, right? But I would say that makes as much sense as, any of Shakespeare's plays, right? But there's something about that thing, about it that is. It's like a condensed, like, here's how I think of a good drama, okay, or a good fiction, right? It's fiction at the surface level,
Yeah.
right? It's fiction at the surface level, but it is capturing something about the reality of the world at a deeper level that makes it substantially important or relevant, right? Like if you look at any of the superhero stories, they all share the same underlying
Yeah,
myth,
the hero's journey. Yeah.
but we can't get enough of that shit. Like I can't, like I don't know, but people stand in line
Yeah.
like days to watch the newest newest Marvel movie, or
yeah.
the newest DC movie, or like the new Star Wars. Like why? It's
Yeah.
like, why? There's the same variation of the same story, but the story somehow is so. It's like this limitless fountain of generation that generates things, right?
So my first thought on this was, this is maybe, it maybe speaks to our intuition. So there is some knowledge in those things that survive. Like if we talk about stories, if we talk about movies, and stuff, then there is some deeper knowledge in there, but it's not expressed in the word of in the way of like pure mathematical propositions. Like, okay, there's not like, if you read Dostoevsky, like there is no argument in there. Really, like, there is an argument in there, but it's not like he doesn't slap the argument on the table and it's like, okay, like this follows from this. He just tells you a story, and from this story you learn something. And so maybe it speaks more to our intuition than it speaks to what we maybe like, because it's so hard to put something into a real proposition that can be really true or false, and for things that are too complex to put them into like that are true about maybe human experience, but that are too complex to put them like in a simple sentence that can be true or false. Then some people like Dostoevsky made it possible to build like a story around this, and so this story kind of maybe really reflects a truth, but not in a simple way, but it tries to bring you this truth in a different way, in more like an intuitive way. I don't know.
No, this is good. Like I have no idea.
Yeah.
But it got me thinking about. So one of the things I want to talk about, like what I was thinking is about, okay, what is truth, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we want to understand something about like, I think one thing that we all have in common, that everyone you speak to, or like at least you've spoken so far,
Mm-hmm.
or and the two of us and Andre and Mark and our friends, is that we are interested in what is really going on.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Generally speaking, we're like, what
Yeah.
the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
Like, we want to know. Like, and the domains we care about vary a little bit here and there, but generally speaking, we're like, what the fuck is actually up with this A, B, C, and D? How does this work? What is this? What is the generative process? How did it get here? Right. And this is this is something that's sort of captured in all these like mythologies and movies and stuff, right? It's like, it's like, okay, how do you like, this is the general story, everything's good, right? Like the hero is chilling, like life is good, and then some fucking calamity happens, and then he's like thrown into a situation where he's like has to start from the bottom, has to build himself up again, and like learn the skills, and then there's the whole like comeback sequence with the suit up, and, like the whole. I fucking love that shit, dude.
Yeah.
I watch it all the time. It's so good. But like, yeah, I don't know, man.
The thing is
that true? Is that true about human nature? Does that capture a truth about what it means to be a man?
No, I don't think so. Okay, so we have the thing is, this is an intuitive way of talking to something inside of you. Like because there's no argument in an hero's journey. So like, just by my definition of truth, it's not true or false, because it's like there's no argument that can be true or false in the story. It's just a story. A story is not true or false. If something follows from a story, like a wisdom about life, then this wisdom about life, this can be true or false. But the story is just a story.
Okay, so from this story, you can derive the wisdom that you should go on an adventure, right?
Yeah, this could be true or false.
You should go on the adventure of your life. That is like the ultimate calling, and this should be what you should do with your life. Right? True or false?
This is a really interesting idea, because this is a good way to connect it, because this hero's journey is something that is so ingrained as humans. Like, we all love it. We all are like, if we see something like this, we're like, wow, like this is amazing to watch this. And maybe this means that there is an underlying, that we as humans, we really want to experience an adventure. We really want to go from having a problem to confronting it, to fighting it, to being victorious, about like to winning. But no, this could be a way to interpret it.
Good.
Yeah.
And then now from here, for this specific argument, we can generate a vast body of neurobiological and behavioral evidence for one way or the other, right? So from a purely dopamine, from how dopamine motivates you to go and do stuff, from like how animals do stuff, how video games work. Okay, let's take the example of video games, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is exactly what I mean by video games. Why video games are interesting and why I don't play video games. Because I realized that video games are interesting because they hijack neural mechanisms that were designed for you to deal with the real world.
Yeah.
Right? So I came to the decision that, okay, what if I just structure my life like a video game and like ask myself about questions about my life that are video game questions. Right? Okay, is this a side quest that I want to go on?
Yeah.
Right? Like, is this a skill I want to level up? Right? Is this someone I want in my party?
Yeah.
Right? Are these the tools I want to spend my money on? Like, how can I where do I go to mine more gold? Like video games, generally, the most addictive video games have a very predictable pattern. One pattern is grinding. There's a big component of grinding involved, which is doing the same shit over and over and over and over and over again to collect some resource that you cash in for a more advanced resource or an end goal.
Yeah.
This is a huge component of some of the most addictive video games, like Dota 2 or League of Legends or fill in the blank. Right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to grind. Like even and games that don't have this built in, bring this in somehow. Like first person shooters don't actually have this mechanism built in. You don't actually have to run around like
maybe some to loot at the beginning.
But they add these things in, like for example rankings, badges, levels, because there's a part of your brain that wants the grind. So like for example, you have different badges that can only be earned if you get 25 kills in this way, or 26 kills in this way, or like jump this item in this way. You have to do the grind. You have to go through the grind. There's something about your brain that when you go through a grind and you get to an end, your brain just goes, boom. You just unlocked something. Mm-hmm. It's not an accident. Like everything is called unlock this, unlock that, unlock this, unlock that. Because that's like a pattern of your brain that they've managed to come in on, right? So grinding is a big part of most games, and if it's not a part of the game, they somehow try to fucking bring it in, because your brain needs to know that you worked for something that you have. If you don't give this to your brain, you get fucking miserable, especially if you're a guy.
Yeah,
you get really fucking sad. Like for example, like I don't know, this is true for me. Like I have to feel like I fucking earned this shit, or I have to feel like I grinded. Like the best day for me is a day of just grind. Just like doing uncomfortable, difficult shit physically and mentally. And then only then can I go home and be like, that was a fucking good day, a good use of my time.
Yeah, I agree.
Right? Otherwise, it just fucking sucks. Yeah. So this is a part of the game, part that game designers have identified. So grinding is part of the game. And that tells you a truth about
human nature. Yeah. But the thing is, yes, this is true, but I wouldn't even add this into the discussion about what is truth. Like if we discuss about what is truth, then this is just a way to find truth. Yeah, because like, okay, if we want to find the truth about human nature, we look into what humans do, and then we find truth about human nature. For example, we want to find, we look into video games. Okay, this is how humans behave, so now we know a truth. But there's nothing, this way we can talk about anything that is, we could talk about anything and try to find out what is true from this. We can, talk about any topic and try to derive truth from it. We don't have to look into video games or the books that survive, or like those are good ways to get to truth, but they inherently don't have anything to do with a discussion about truth. Like, unless we discuss about what is true about human nature, then we have
No,
to,
I use that. I use this as an example of how we can converge on a truth at any given thing. Because the truth in general, like for example, I mean, a fundamental religious person would make the claim that there is a fundamental truth to the world, to why you exist, and your life's goal is to find it. Let's say.
Yeah.
Or something. Or they tell you what the reason is. It's like, this is why you exist. Okay, because God wanted to and make extra, I don't know what, ABC, fill in the blank, right? But the cool thing is, there is this multitude of truths, this infinite dimension of truths. And of course, if you're a physicist, you're focused on this fundamental reality of the universe, right? And that is the truth you're looking for. What is this? Why are we here? Okay, so in that sense, you're kind of like a priest, right? You're trying to talk to God, but in physics. Yeah. Okay, but I don't know. Like, I wanted to ask you. I brought this up. Yeah. Mainly because I had the thought of how far should you go to figure out what the truth is about anything, about something. Because I was thinking about this in terms of science, right? Just in science, like I was listening to a discussion, and so there was this one study on female on male on sex differences in sex differences in like willingness to engage in sexual encounters or whatever. So basically, literally, they just like had a male and a female person like walk around on campus, and male would go up to female and be like, and give 3 options, like, hey, like say something like, hey, I see you around campus, and ask one of 3 questions, and not so different people get asked different questions, right? So it would ask one of 3 questions, like, would you like to go out on a date with me tonight? Would you, right? That one question. Or they would ask, would you come back to my apartment like right now? And third, do you want to go have sex? 3 questions. Yeah. Right? So the male would ask female people on campus this, and the female would ask male, right? And of course, what do you think they found? Like completely different responses, right? Almost like 0% of females were like, let's go have sex right now. And smaller percentage were like, let's go to the apartment. And 50% was like, yeah, I'll go out and date with you, right? It's completely opposite, like males, like attractive girls wants to have sex with you. Yes, let's fucking go, right? Like this is like a very male thing to do. Okay, and so I was like, that's really interesting. And then the person mentioned that this wouldn't even be allowed by institutional review board, like the authority, like you wouldn't be allowed to do this anymore, right? Yeah. And I was thinking like, wait, what the fuck? This is like just asking people questions. Yeah. Like
why should this
exactly
be allowed?
Right? Yeah. But so this is the thing. So the question that occurred to me is like, how far should you go to get at the truth? And my perspective is science is the process of science is unbelievable. Like the fact that we managed to come up with it is fucking nuts. But like it is, I feel like, the best tool we have, regardless of the domain. It could be human behavior, it could be physics, whatever the fuck. Scientific thinking and scientific way of looking at the world is the best tool we have to getting at the truth. Yeah, let's call truth whatever the fuck. So
this we can call truth.
The reason I brought up the whole thing beforehand was I tried to understand, to like narrow this down to bring us to this point. It's like, okay, we have science to get us to the truth of whatever it is, right? A better understanding of what we're dealing with. Okay, and I want and the thought to go to me, how far should you go? Like, what is the sacrifice you should be willing to make to get at the truth? How much are you willing to sacrifice to get at what is really going on?
So I think it really depends. Like there are two things. There are like things can be true and things can be useful, and there's difference. Like wrong things, like things that are not by definition true, can be still useful. And
How do you know beforehand what is useful or not?
you don't. Like,
That's the thing. So this is why. So this is part of the reason why you have so many fucking PhDs and so many fucking people, because like doing science. So actually, this is a good point, because Andre asked me. He told me once sometime. He's like, man, what the fuck is the point of me doing this, right? Also, what's the point of me trying to be a scientist? I'm most likely never going to contribute to anything. And I was like, yeah, you're probably right. But that's not the point. The point is, it's a bet. Society as a whole is betting that, yeah, sure, each one person is unlikely to change the world and like come up with like some new way of, some new understanding, some groundbreaking fundamental thing, right? But as long as you have the opportunity of that happening, every once in a while you get a fucking Claude Shannon who writes a master's thesis, and that's like revolutionizes the way we communicate in digital technology and everything else, right? What you want is to minimize the downside, like cap the bottom, but keep the top unlimited.
So you just let a lot of ideas be born,
Yeah.
and let all the wrong ones die,
Yeah.
and the good ones, they like natural selection
Yeah.
will
Yes,
make
exactly.
them,
Exactly.
will show you that they are true,
Exactly.
or
So you
will show you that they are useful. I
exactly.
think.
So the goal is to structure the environment such that this can actually happen.
Wait, one thing. The word we were trying to find, I think it's useful. Like there are things that are useful, but not true. And
Yeah, but if you don't
the
know-
things that are useful, they survive.
But if you don't know
Yeah.
beforehand what is useful, you have to
Try to find the truth.
You got to find the truth, right? So how far? What should you sacrifice to get the truth?
One second. Don't you think that you can also try to directly find something useful? Do you have to try to find something true?
I mean, I think the issue is like you don't know what's useful, right? Think of Transformers, right? It's like, okay, we have this idea. The thing is, some things are so useful that they're useful in situations you can't even imagine them being useful, right? It's like I don't know. It's like some things are so damn useful that some ideas are so powerful that they capture something that changes things in domains you don't even understand. That makes no sense, right? Like, for example, I'll give you something that I'm kind of familiar with. A chap called Kuramoto created this. I mean, not created, like he developed this formula for capturing synchronization in particles and like physics in physics in like very high number particle physical systems, right? That captures synchrony. Okay, like how particles phase synchrony and all this stuff. Synchrony meaning like how they change relative to each other. Okay, and he was like, yeah, this is for this physics, and then cool. And then that formulation was so powerful. Then it was like people applied it in social sciences, teamwork, biology, chemistry, fucking all over the place.
So he tried to find the truth, but he found something that was also really useful
to
a lot of domains that he didn't expect.
So things that are like have this strong, like they capture a signal that is you can't see beforehand somehow, right? So if you're trying to like, okay, this is useful. Like, of course, this is the same argument people who are like, when people want to distribute funding in sort of in universities. Personally, I think it should all go to our department. But people are like, okay, so people, for example, will be like, oh, this field is useless. Like, this is not going to generate anything useful. Blah blah blah. But as long as someone can argue and be like, actually, this is important. This is important. Something useful might never come out of this, but we should still go try to understand what the fuck is going on here, right? Just for the mere fact that we don't understand, chasing something to understand, just for the mere fact that we don't understand it, is often the only argument you need to get people to let you go and get people to go let you figure out what's going on, right? But it's based more and more constrained. It's like, okay,
This is hard because like your question was, what is use, like, no, how far should we go to find truth? And
I think better question, like how much are you willing to sacrifice to
for truth? And this is the thing, because if truth is not useful for your goal, then you should, like, by definition, not sacrifice anything for it. But you don't know.
Exactly. And but what situation, can you think of a situation where the truth is not useful in some way? Isn't it always useful to know what the truth is?
Nah, like, if not, depends on your goal. And like, for somebody whose goal it is to live like a happy and fulfilled life, I don't know, and he lives here in the Netherlands, it doesn't matter like how penguins raise their children. Like, this would be truth, but it wouldn't matter to him.
Yeah,
like,
maybe. Okay, I agree. Yeah.
So,
but for someone who's trying to understand how
penguins raise their children,
or like how birds raise children, or like how to raise children in the cold. You know, it could be unbelievably useful. Yeah. Right. Like, okay,
that's true.
No, this is actually really an argument. This is actually a real problem that politicians face whenever they have to, like, convince the public that this is important, or like even when science groups say, like, we want to fund this. Like, so when you are a scientist and you want to get funding and you go to the government, this is taxpayer money, right? So you have to convince them that this is somehow beneficial for the everyday taxpayer person.
Yeah.
Right. So if you want to go study penguins in Antarctica or Arctic, I don't know which one of them they live in.
Yeah.
But you have to convince these people that it is useful, that it is somehow useful to everyday people. Right?
Yeah.
And that's really hard. Like, the more abstract and ridiculous it is, the harder it is to do. Actually, so like, this is a problem that scientists face all the time.
They want to find truth.
Exactly. They want to find the truth, but they also have to show that the truth is somehow useful.
Yeah.
So I'm arguing that the truth is useful regardless of going after the truth in and of itself is useful.
So if you go for the truth, I would agree that it's it's possible that you find something that is useful, or it's more likely to find something useful by searching for the truth than maybe a lot of other processes of trying to find something useful. Like, searching for the truth, is really likely to end up in something useful. But it maybe still doesn't mean that searching for the truth is per se like the most useful. I don't know if you say per se in English. The most useful thing you can do. So I think it always depends. Like, I would always, everything you do, I would set it in relation to the goal you have. Like, your life, I would set it into relation of your purpose. But if we dumb it down, it's just a goal. So when you say how much are you willing to sacrifice for finding the truth, then I would say it depends on how much you think you are going to gain by finding it. And there is no... Of course, it's good that we as humanity make progress, because the more we know, the more possible useful things we can build out of this knowledge. And like, knowledge is never bad. If somebody offers you knowledge for free, a truth for free, always take it. Like, there's no reason there's no reason not to take it. But it's not free. Like, this is not the world we live in. So we have to sacrifice something. Like you said, for every bit of truth, we have to sacrifice something. And for some truth, we have to sacrifice a lot. And we don't even know how much you sacrifice, because you don't know if you're going to find the truth if you try this. Like, it can also be that you work really hard, sacrifice a lot, and you haven't even found the truth in the end. So the thing is,
that happens all the time.
Yeah.
Like, you spend, like, scientists, this happens to scientists all the time. They spend 10 years, 15 years on an idea, on an idea, and then you finally do the experiment, you finally get everything, and you do the experiment, and like, it's fucking nothing, and you're like,
shit.
Fuck. Yeah. Right? But at least but still it's valuable.
Yeah, you still found truth.
Yeah,
like
you still found truth, right?
It's not the thing you wanted it to be.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's still truth. Yeah. So the thing I think is you should always set it into relation of the goal you have. So if you have a goal, then you can ask yourself, okay, how. Like you can't judge anything. Like this is also connected to my definition of what is meaning. Like you can't judge anything to be good or bad or valuable or not valuable, or if you don't have a goal behind it. Like you say, how much are you willing to sacrifice to find truth? In this question, there is missing is the goal. You know, we need a goal to judge how much you are willing to sacrifice to get truth. Because for some goals, you should be ready to sacrifice a lot to find truth. But for other goals, like for the goals to live a happy, fulfilled life in the Netherlands, you don't have to sacrifice a lot to know about penguins breeding strategies. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. This is something I think we keep coming back to, this idea of goals and how much it serves to constrain, for example, what you should sacrifice to figure it out, right? To figure out the truth. Like, for example, they're saying, I don't know who says this, but what you most need to find is in the place where you least want to look.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So this is like a comment on just, psychology, on like, that there are things we avoid confronting because we don't want to make a sacrifice, or we're too afraid of what will happen if we do it. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So there are situations where it's like, you know what, the truth about this is worth everything. Like it's worth everything it's worth everything I am. For example, if like someone killed your parents, God forbid that never happens, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, fuck all of this. I'm gonna like this. I'm basically telling you a movie, right? This is how like some movies work. It's like fuck everything. So movies capture this thing. It's like something happens, and to get to the truth, the person, the hero or the heroine or whatever, sacrifices everything in search of the truth, in search of trying to understand what the fuck happened, trying to get to the bottom of things. This is like a very common movie thing.
But like especially in this, I don't know if it's really useful. Maybe this is more of a human instinct to try to find out what happened, like to sacrifice everything. But if you would really think about your goal, like let's say something bad happened, like in a movie. I don't know what movie you have in mind, but like something bad happened, and the person wants to find out who did it, or so, and like the whole life is now like geared towards finding out who did it, and like this is kind of useless if you're like, why do you want to find it out? Like it depends on what your goal is. Like if your goal is just to still live a happy and fulfilled life, then maybe it's not the best way to find out who did it.
Yeah, but if your goal is to like stop an even worse thing happening again, then you sacrifice everything you can to stop this happening.
That is true. Yeah,
right. So like goals really put a constraint on this thing. And I was thinking like, so for example, this is a very common problem, man. So when this usefulness idea, I come back to that. It's like when people talk about, so when people were trying to go to Mars, let's go back. When the space program in the US was getting spun up, and the Kennedy was like, we are gonna go to the moon, and people were like, you're gonna go to the moon? What the fuck? We have all these fucking problems here. Like we have all this shit going on here. Like we need housing, we need food, we need like people are in poverty. Like why the fuck don't you just spend the money on
going to the moon?
Going to the moon, right? Like how the fuck is that useful, right? Like, so this is like a real problem. It's like how do you? I don't know, man. Because like, and the counter argument is, for example, just from NASA, there have been so many spin-off technologies that have just trained so many different industries. Yeah. You can go on the website and there's a whole fucking list
of things that were invented for the
like
rocket and are
spin-offs.
useful now.
Yeah.
And they didn't knew that they would
exactly. So so something about having a super ambitious goal, like super ambitious goals, seem to generate. Even if you don't reach the goal, they seem to generate some things that are somehow even better than any of the. If you had planned for those things, you would have gotten even worse.
I don't know if this is true, but let's pick this apart. Let's say, okay, the NASA, like there are two goals here. Like there's one, the goal of the government, like let's say this was the goal of the government, to make the best for their citizens, to give them like the best they can. And for that, some people were like, okay, to go to the moon doesn't help towards this bigger goal. And like this, going to the moon would be a smaller goal. And but some people were like, okay, no, we're going to the moon anyway. And in the end, it turned out that going to the moon, to doing like this side quest, while you have like this big underlying goal to do good for your citizens, in the end was one of the best things they could do for the city, or a really good thing.
I just used the NASA spin-offs as an example, but the impact of that one event was unbelievable. Like across the world, it inspired so many people. Like, it had effects that we still don't even we might not even be feeling right yet. Effects that might only happen 10, 20 years from now. You have no idea.
The thing is, I think it's really hard to say this. Like in the end, if you in the end judge, okay, it was more useful than we would have thought, like or than the people thought. Like in the end, you can always say this about stuff, but other stuff turns out it could also have been that it was not as useful. Like it could also have been like, okay,
I'm trying to bring together the usefulness and truthfulness.
And I think if you want to find usefulness, it's not like, of course you can go for truth, but I would like, this is my it's not my personal opinion. I think it's just the right thing. If you have a goal, then go right for this goal. Like go first principle thinking, okay, what is the most useful thing you can do? Don't put like some heuristics in there. Like the heuristics are useful to some extent. If you say, okay, it's so hard for me to find things that are useful, so I'm just going to go for truth and hope that on the way I find something useful. Of course, maybe this is a good way to do it. Maybe this is a more simple way to do it. But in the end, if you want to find something that is useful, then search for something that is useful. Don't search for something that is true, because if you search for something that is true, of course, you might find something useful on the way, but why don't you just go directly for the thing you really want?
My thinking is the truth is useful no matter what.
Yeah.
I think that's fundamentally what underlies the scientific thinking.
I agree. I think, yes, the truth is useful.
So which is why I can put up with social scientists, which is like, even though I think personally a lot of social science has been fucked, right? Like sociology, for example, and or like have I told you about those fake papers?
No.
So, oh my God, have you not? Okay, so, bro. Okay, so you're studying psychology. Yeah. So this is something you need to understand.
Yeah.
Okay. A bunch of scientists, they were so fed up of how ridiculous some of these journals are, and like how completely unscientific some of these principles of sociology and social sciences and psychology are. They straight up made up papers, right? Made up like just complete nonsense papers, and submitted them and got published, right? And then afterwards,
like
they were
no study or anything.
Yeah,
they just
afterwards they were like, look at this bullshit, right?
Yeah.
And then everyone was like, fuck, right? Like, I'll give you an example. So one study, one of these hoaxes was something like something absurd, like gender bias, gender dysphoria in the in dogs in dog parks, and like testicle sizes and some shit like that. Yeah. Completely made up bullshit study, right? And got published in like some crazy one of these like gender studies, whatever journals. They were like, oh, look at this, like evidence for other species. And they were like, what the fuck? This is complete nonsense, right? So, even that being the case, right? Even though some things I'll see and think this is complete waste of time, right? But if I know that person is in good faith looking for some actual truth, I will 100% support the fact that you should fucking do it. Like, so whenever someone comes to me, whenever someone comes to me with like a research idea or like a topic or something, I'm never like, that's a stupid fucking idea. Don't do that. I'm always judging like, is there a truth to be found here? And is it worth? If there is, fucking go for it.
Okay. I think I just got something. So we search for, when we try to find something useful, then we have to define the goal beforehand.
Yes.
And we have to define the goal and then try to find out what is the most useful way to achieve this goal. But it's so hard to define a good goal and to find out what is useful. And like there are so many steps involved that can go wrong that you end up like on a totally wrong place. But if you search for truth, this is like all away. It's all like you don't have to know exactly what your goal is, which is incredibly hard to have like an exact, like to know exactly what you want. Like I don't know if any one of us knows exactly what we want, but if we just wipe all of this away and we can, by searching for the truth, it's like all this complicated, okay, what exactly do I want and what exactly is the way to achieve what I want is all away. You just search for the truth, and in the end, this is very, very likely going to be very, very useful. Yeah. So maybe from this perspective, truth is better than searching for truth is better than searching for something useful.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, so, when I was thinking about what I want to do with my life, right? The only way I could find a way forward is to think, okay, what is something that's super interesting, but that's also really hard for me. I don't know for everyone else, but for me it's really hard. So, and then just try to get to the bottom of that shit, right? So weirdly, people think I'm like really good at math, right? I'm like, I keep telling people I am not good at math, right? It fucking sucks. It's a fucking grind. Like, I have to work really hard. It doesn't come easy to me like some people. And that is what makes it fun for some reason. It's like, I have to like read this like 8 times, 9 times to understand, like, okay. But then once I get it, it's like there's that feeling of satisfaction of the grind, and then the reward, and then getting the changing your mind so that your dopamine gets released for the effort and not the reward. It's like I put in the fucking work. That's all that matters. Yeah. And that's super helpful. So like getting to the bottom of something, like what is the truth about this about this? Because it's noisy. The world is noisy. People are noisy. You get different signals, right? And you want to get to the bottom of this thing. And sometimes you find you're interested. Like this is another thing that I found curious. It's like you can't really control what you're interested in.
Yeah,
that's fucking weird, right? Like you're interested in something and you generally have no idea why, but you find like you're drawn to it, like a fucking moth. You're like, that's fucking, what is up? What's up with that? That's fucking weird, right? And then that's my general feeling is like, what's up with that? That's fucking weird. And that's like my guiding light to meaning. Yeah. It's like, that's fucking strange. So like that's why I like doing complex systems, like multi-agent systems stuff. You start like with some very simple rules and you start a simulation and all kinds of weird shit happens. You're like, why the fuck did that happen? Like that's not what the rules are supposed to do. Like, I made super simple rules, but then all this weird shit happens, which is why I'm very interested in like chemistry and physics and like if all this like very simple, very defined rules, but all this weird shit starts to happen. Yeah, and then you have to try to get to the bottom of it, right? So I think this is right. Like it's simple. It does, it does make it. So what? But does it make it simpler though? Like it makes it weirdly simpler. You're right. It's like yeah, just get to the bottom of it. Like, but I think that hides a lot of. That's interesting. It does make it simple. Why do you think it makes it like? Can you like talk about it a bit more? Like maybe there's something to think about that.
So the thing about searching for truth, why this makes it simple, is like searching for truth is a goal that is really like it's okay. It's not super binary. Like it's still a complex goal, but you don't have to worry about the goal anymore if you just go for searching for something that is true. If you search for something that is useful, then you have to also worry about what your goal is, because nothing is just useful by definition. Useful is only in relation to a goal always. So if you search for something useful, you have to also define a clear goal. If you search for something true, the goal is taken care of. And in the end, you will probably find something useful, and it's maybe going to be even more useful, because when you try to search for something useful, then you may get the goal wrong in the beginning, and then you find something that is useful for a goal that you didn't really want. And this makes it, if you just search for something true, this is like simple in the term of that you don't have to think about, or you don't have to find something that is you don't have to think about the goal anymore. The goal is like, this is done. Like, and by searching for something true, you have a really, really high likelihood of finding something useful. It's not the same. Like, I think it still would be better if you knew exactly what you want, and then search for something useful would be maybe better. But the problem is that it's so hard to know exactly what you want. And then in this point, it's easier to search for something true than for something useful, because you don't have to search for the goal. Do you want to say about, because I have another thought that I want to.
Keep going.
Okay, so another thought is, for example, the sentence you said about psychology, the sentence about like the deepest truth inside, or
sometimes the thing you most need to find is in the place where you least want to look.
Okay, this sentence is not true, but it is useful.
Yeah.
This sentence, like, this is just an example. Like, it's not about this sentence I want to talk. It's just like there are, like, we use so much of our intuition. Like, we use sentences.
What is intuition, bro? What is intuition? What is intuition? Intuition is what? It's just like,
intuition is not. It's when you not really, like, when you not consciously understand something, but subconsciously understand something. This is intuition. Like, when your subconscious mind builds like a model of the world that is useful and that works, but you can't really explain how it works.
So I'll give you, this is great. It's like, so one interesting example for this phenomenon for me was that came to mind was one time during BJJ, our coach had us close our eyes, and just like do the just like very light roll with the eyes closed. Yeah. Right.
Oh, this is cool. We have to do this tomorrow.
And like weirdly, right? What I noticed was like I was doing stuff as I was going for a collar tie or something with my hand. Like my other hand would just automatically come up to protect me from the movement of my opponent, which I can't see, but I just assumed would come.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, so that's sort of an intuition. It's like, okay, if I grab him here, he's most likely to put his hand out and try to stop it from this side. So like, as he comes out, I block his hand. I was like, whoa, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Right? And you also have similar intuitions about people. Right? Like, intuitions can be trained, right? Intuition can be developed by repeated exposure.
Yeah.
So in the beginning, you shouldn't trust your intuitions. Like, for example, in jiu-jitsu, your beginning intuitions are fucking shit.
Yeah.
Right? So maybe there's something more intuition than you are thinking about. Like, intuition, there's something really valuable about intuition, right?
Yeah, 100%. Like, intuition is incredibly valuable. And like I'm thinking about intuition a lot. Actually, today I don't know if you read the WhatsApp messages. I sent a bunch of WhatsApp messages about intuition into the group. Like
Before you came here?
Before I came here.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Then
Before I came here. The thing is with intuition, because like this intuition you were talking about is like for your body, like for fighting. This is like maybe even like a deeper rooted intuition, but there's also intuition about truth, like that you put your arm up there's no truth in there. Like this is not but there's also intuition about like for example about people, about how people will behave. For this, your intuition is so incredibly good at this. I have a really good, like I can really use the example I texted into the group today. So today I was working on, like I have a podcast and I was in my note-taking system I have a note that says whenever I consume content about how to produce content, I write shit down in my note-taking system. And there are so many intuitions in this note, and today I try to like, for example, if you want to produce a good podcast, what is a good podcast? You could just say, okay, a good podcast is how many people listen to it. But this is not true. Just because many people listen to it doesn't make it a good podcast. Like, there are so many different things that make a good podcast, but you have never defined it. Like, this is an intuition. What a good podcast is an intuition. And if you try to, health is another. Are you healthy? Yes, like you could give yourself a number on how healthy you are. This is intuition, but you have never really defined what does health mean? How do you measure health? Like, this is like also part of science, like to operationalize things. But we talk about things that are like, it's incredible. Like, the more because in my note-taking system, I turn intuitions into, I don't know how you can call it, into like more mathematical propositions that can be true or false. So I try to really define this stuff I want to say. I don't say, oh,
you mean logical propositions?
Yeah. I don't use like somehow wishy-washy sentences that can be really helpful. I try to get it as precise as possible, and by doing that, now when I'm going through the world, I see those wishy-washy sentences everywhere. Like the sentence you said, like the thing that we find truth inside. I forgot the sentence again, but you don't have to say it. So this sentence is really useful, and it's intuitively we understand it, but it's not a true sentence because it's a sentence that is.
So you're talking about
it's an intuitive truth.
Yeah, you're talking about like logical truth, like,
yes,
like propositions can be true or false, right?
Yeah.
So I understand what you mean. So when you walk around, you're seeing like all these wishy-washy sentences.
Yeah.
I know what you mean. Like this, something very similar happens when you start programming.
Yeah.
Like after you spend a few years programming.
Yeah.
And you walk around people and you like hang out with people and you listen to them, you realize how poorly defined.
Yeah.
Almost everyone's sentences are.
Exactly.
Right?
What I do in my system is like I try to turn words into programming language.
This is especially true if, like me, for the past 3 or 4 years, you spend more time with computers than you spend with people, right? Because like computers are not capable of dealing with this wishy-washiness, right? They are only capable of dealing with propositions, true or false, right? Like, is it true or not, right? So I completely understand what you mean. Like, when you walk around and you talk to an average person, you're like, this person is thoughts are.
The crazy thing is, it's not that this is only average persons. Everyone, like everyone, you, we
everybody,
all, we all, like, even my mathematical truth, like, are also like in some level still wishy-washy. Like, you can decrease the wishy-washiness of your sentences, and you can try to get more mathematical, to get more precise with what you're trying to say, to get more defined. But there is still going to be some wishy-washiness inside. And this wishy-washiness, this word. It's not bad. Like it still can be useful, because we as humans, with our brain, our brain can deal with it. Like our brain doesn't have to have like the perfect clear definition of something. Our brain is something different than a computer. We don't have to have the perfect definition to understand something. We can understand something intuitively by listening to wishy-washy sentences, and then we know how something works. So this is what intuition is. Like intuition is using those wishy-washy sentences to understand something.
So interesting. This is very interesting. So when you, for example, do a scientific study, or write a framework or something, right? Let's say you want to investigate some phenomenon, right? Let's say everything you use, you have to define very clearly. So if I say this is how I'm calculating this, then I have to have to define the mathematical form of that, because mathematics is extremely precise. So like part of the reason why people have a really hard time reading papers in AI, for example, or cognitive science, some statistics, is because there's this whole other language of preciseness that is used, and it's really hard. Like it's got symbols, got sums, products, and iterations, loops, all this stuff. But it's a mathematical formulation that it takes some time to unwrap. You can't read it at the same speed as you read a wishy-washy sentence, right? So I can describe I can describe what my algorithm is doing to you in words, and your brain goes, cool. That makes sense. But if you put in a mathematical form that's very precisely defined, it also makes it very difficult to change and mess around with, because you're specifically defining it. And the reason you're doing it is so that someone can look at it, okay, take it, put it somewhere, put it in a machine or something, and then get the machine to do it for you. So, this intuition is. I mean, this is a powerful.
Intuition is incredibly powerful.
It's a powerful machine that we have as a result of being a biological machine, evolved through billions of years. Right.
And the thing is also that like this intuition is like
the intuition for gravity. Okay. So this I found this unbelievable. So this is an experiment. Where they took two tables, and in the middle there's glass. Right. And you put a baby on it. Baby has never seen a cliff before, obviously. Never been this, and just won't go over this. I may be butchering the details about this.
I actually even know the name of the. Wait, I had it in my Anki. I don't have to.
But it's like these are like built-in understanding of this is a falling down place. Like if I go here, I'm gonna fall. Right. Like
so the baby doesn't walk on the glass.
Exactly. And we don't. And this is like built in. Like so many. Like for snakes. Like like Charles Darwin's. What is this? Darwin?
Charles Darwin.
I don't know if this is the same. But anyway, I'm pretty sure it was him. He would always go to this snake thing. And it was either in the Natural History Museum or his house. I think it was in the museum. And he would try to resist the urge to jump back when the snake hits the attack, when strikes the glass. He just couldn't do it. Like he was incapable of doing it.
So I think this is even a level deeper than intuition. This is reflexes. This is reflexes. And but maybe this is also this is even another way to look at it. But if we go on the point of what intuition is, and if we go really on intuition, on knowledge, this is something else than reflexes. I think like of course our reflexes maybe play a role in it, but there's a difference. And if we have intuition, like I just think it's so crazy. Like if you really try to find truth, like the thing you said with the mathematical formula, you try to really understand it with every facet. You don't want to leave anything out, and then you try to make it as simple as possible. Like you try to find the most simple, most precise form you can, and this is super hard. And I think this is like the the other side. Like you have intuition on one side, which can be long, not as clear, but still, or also can be short and not as clear, but you still understand it somehow. But it's not as precise. Like if you make it really long, it can be precise, but then it's super long. It's still intuition. And you can make it super short, and then it's not as precise, but it also kind of works. This is intuition. And the moment you come from intuition to, I don't know if we can call this, like intuition is also somehow true. Like it's just if you come to the cognitive understanding of something, the mathematical understanding of something, you have to either make it shorter if you have a really long intuition, or you have to make it more precise if you come from a really short intuition. And the more you work with this, like for me, like that I'm like literally nearly every day I'm trying in my note-taking system to turn intuition into precise words, into precise understanding of things. I think like this is a thought that I had like in the last days actually. Like this is why I texted this in the WhatsApp group today, that it's so crazy how much intuition we humans use. And there's nothing bad on this. Like,
yes, absolutely.
It's so useful.
You use it all
like,
the time.
Like I texted into the group. It's you know Pareto 80-20 principle, of course. Yeah. So intuition is 80-20. Like intuition is the 20% you need to understand it 80%. Like this is and if you really want to understand something 100%, then you have to not only like if you want to go from intuition to really understanding it in a mathematical sense, then you go from 20%. Intuition is 20%, and then you have to go the whole other 80% to only understand it 20% more.
Yeah, like reading the abstract of a paper versus actually reading the entire paper.
Yeah.
Right. Like if you read the abstract, you get a sort of get like a if it's like a technical paper, if you read the abstract and maybe even the methods section a little bit and the conclusion, you get an idea of what they were trying to do.
Yeah.
So you are like 60% of the way there.
Yeah.
But to get the other 40%, you gotta fucking work for it. You gotta really read the methods, really read the formulas, really understand what the fuck is happening, and that takes time. It takes a lot of time. So like, you invest that effort if the paper is like takes you towards a goal. It's useful, right? Yeah. Right, and it's like okay, but also if you want to get to the bottom, but if you want to get to the bottom of the truth, it's like okay, well maybe I don't need to do all that work. I don't know, man.
You don't need. You think you don't need to do all this work when you.
I have no idea.
Yeah, I actually I'm starting to form some ideas about. So it's like, if you can always go more into the direction of from intuition to understanding. Like intuition is. I don't have a word for this other thing that is not intuition. Like mathematic.
I think. I don't know, man.
Mathematic understanding. Yeah, maybe. So if you try to go from intuition to this mathematic understanding, you can always go more into the direction of mathematic understanding, and like you try to. The question is this useful always? Like this is. If you have the intuition, then you did 20% of the work to get 80% of the result. And it works. Like I have an intuition on what makes a good podcast. And I can feed this intuition by watching videos. But I don't understand it 100%. I don't have the formula. But I'm like the thing I'm doing with my note-taking system, I'm trying to like have the formula for not for this specific thing, but for everything. Like, and this is 80% of the work to get 20% of the result, because you don't need the formula to have something work in the end.
This is like this is also kind of like the difference between, I would say, an engineering perspective versus like a pure scientific perspective, right? Like if you're like an engineer, and you're working at a company, you're mostly concerned with getting the shit to work. Yeah. Like for example, neural networks are useful. You don't, even if you don't understand how the fuck they work. If you're working for a company, it's like, I just fucking throw a neural network and all I want this thing to do is predict this. It does an amazing job. No one gives a fuck how or why. It doesn't matter.
It just works.
It just works, right?
Yeah.
So we have, I think useful.
Is there use in understanding it?
Exactly. Now, this is the thing. I think just settling at useful puts a cap on. It's like a local optimum.
Yeah.
Puts a cap on how much further you can go. Right.
Yeah.
Right. But having a true understanding might give you
opens new possibilities to find new useful things. Yeah.
Exactly.
That is true. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the one. That's nice.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because like this is a kind of the argument that for people who look at like companies like Tesla or Neuralink or whatever, Google, and say, oh, they just like make stuff, couldn't like, as long as it solves the problem, they don't really do the same thing as a university does, which produces research and like publishes stuff about it. So one thing is, when a company makes something useful, they don't want to share how they make it useful.
Yeah,
because like that's a competitive disadvantage, right?
Yeah.
So you generally, so there's an argument where it's like, okay, do you actually get understanding from businesses doing stuff and solving problems and like getting stuff done, or do you only get understanding from this other thing, which is like which I don't know. Like, some companies publish papers too, like Google publishes papers all the time, like like DeepMind, they publish papers all the time. But there's this balance, like there's this. So I feel like useful for them, for their goals, solve some problems, but they don't necessarily have to get to the truth to do this. I think neural networks is the best example of this.
Yeah. You can have something useful without understanding it. Like, yeah.
But if you have imagine you have a problem you want to solve.
Yeah.
Like a problem that absolutely needs to be solved. See, in this sense, patents are super interesting.
What?
Patents.
A patent.
A patent, right?
Yeah.
So if you come up with a design for something, a patent, right?
Yeah, patent, yeah.
And you submit it to the patent office, anyone can go and look at those designs.
Yeah.
Like your proprietary shit, you put it there, anybody can go and do it, but no one gets to use it for like, I don't know, 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
Right? So there is understanding and truth there, but it's not accessible in some way. And like science, which is like you find something fundamental and you publish it, and everyone is able to see it and then get access to it. Minus the whole fucking publishing bullshit.
Yeah. So
do companies go off? I feel like the companies in this distinction go after what's useful, and they don't necessarily give a fuck about what's true.
But on this journey of trying to find something, like, I think usefulness and truth is pretty closely linked. It's not the same. This is what
they're correlated. They're correlated.
Yeah, exactly. They're strongly correlated. This is why you say, if you don't, like, you can just go for truth and you will probably find something useful. And this is why I say now that a company that goes for something useful can also discover something true. Like just by trying to find something useful, you'll probably find something true, because useful and true are often really closely linked. Like the true things are really likely to be useful, and like wrong things are really unlikely to be useful. But it's possible that something that is wrong is still useful. Like there can be useful ways of seeing the world that are not true.
I like your insistence on the link between usefulness and goals. I think is really interesting, because it's not like Tesla invented new laws of physics to make reusable rockets. Yeah. Right? It's the same physics.
Yeah.
So how come they managed to do it when nobody else did it before that? I think they had a different goal, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. Okay, like on this point, I don't know. So, wait, the question: why did SpaceX?
So SpaceX didn't invent new laws of physics.
Yeah.
Right? They didn't discover new things about physics.
Yeah.
But they created a bunch of new technology.
Yeah.
And they used existing truths about reality to make a reusable rocket.
Yeah.
Right? Where other companies didn't do it or didn't want to do it for multiple reasons that they didn't think it could be done.
I think this is just because it's just hard. Like this is
hard.
It's just hard to build something that is like
that's never been done before.
It's never been done. It's not. It's yes. They probably. I don't know. Maybe they also on the way they probably discovered something new that is true or useful. That like exactly like the NASA program with flying to the moon. They on the way of trying to do something useful for their goal. To like their goal was to get to the moon, and on the way. Like so, they tried to discover things that were useful to get to the moon.
Yeah.
And on the way, they found things that are also useful for the goal of doing something good for the citizens, like or useful for other goals. And probably SpaceX did the same. But I think just the fact that SpaceX were the first ones is just that it's super hard.
Yeah.
It's just hard to build a fucking rocket.
Just doing hard shit is hard, bro.
Doing hard shit is hard. that is true.
All right. Yeah. Yo, this is hour and a half.
Nice.
My brain's running out of juice.
Yeah.
I think we can stop here for now.
Yeah,
We definitely picks up again.
I really enjoyed this, man.
This is good. Trying to get to the bottom of what it means to be true and like what it. Actually, no. There's one more thing I want to talk about. Like, I have this weird feeling that like we have to be a little more brave and a little more willing to make some hard sacrifices to solve some of the problems that we have to solve. Especially to get to some of the truth that we have to get to, right? Like, I think I have this weird feeling that like, so because man, so many bad shit happen, like so many bad things happen in the sense that like just terms of scientific experiments, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like some of the experiments they used to do in the 50s, 60s, they just wouldn't be allowed anymore.
Yeah.
Right. But we learned some insane things about, for example, vision.
Yeah.
Okay. So one thing we found, so they took cat, they basically stuck it,
I know, yeah.
right, and they just made it stare at the thing.
So they killed the cat. I think.
No, the cat's alive.
Yeah.
Like, and they basically connected the cat to this like moving thing. Basically, the cat had no free motion.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm butchering this, but the long and the short is it was not fun for the cat.
Yeah.
Okay. But what we learned is that vision doesn't develop without motion.
Yeah.
If you just have a cat just staring at one thing, it becomes blind.
Okay.
Like if you hold its eyes without moving, it becomes blind. Like, isn't that fucking crazy? Like, you need movement for vision to develop.
Yeah.
Right? Because that makes sense. If you don't move,
what
the fuck you vision for?
So the thing you're saying, like, we did something that is now ethically not allowed to get closer to truth.
Yeah. So what's the line? I think we might be getting a little too squeamish. Like I think we have to do some shit.
You mean too afraid to do something?
Too unwilling to make some hard sacrifices.
Yes.
I think there's definitely a line. There's definitely I think we have definitely moved good. Like we moved reasonably and valuably towards more ethical behavior for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. But I think we need to be very careful.
This is I think I've got something. So when you try to find something useful, then these ethical decisions are pretty simple because you have if you have a simple goal, then you just if your goal is to find out as much as possible towards human vision, then you can just whatever the cat is not a part. But if you search for truth as a proxy as a proxy for your goal, because you don't really know what's the best thing, so you just search for truth. Like then you don't know anymore what is
what the line is.
What is the line? Exactly, because true is just how much worth is the truth?
Exactly. What are you willing to sacrifice for the truth? So
and this is
hard.
This is a fucking hard question.
This is a hard question. Then if it's everything goes. If anything's fine, then smoking should be solved at this point. We should just get some people one group to smoke, one group to not smoke, and see who gets cancer.
Yeah.
But no board on the planet would let you do this.
But I think there's pretty strong evidence.
No. I know, but this is what people argue. Who are saying smoking is not going to cause cancer. There's no clinical placebo-controlled double-blind trial because it's unethical. You can't subject someone to a known carcinogen.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like, so that's ridiculous.
Yeah, there would be, if you do this, it would be a way to get closer to truth, but you would sacrifice a lot.
But the thing is, in this condition, we are like 95% there.
Yeah.
Right? So how much are we going to gain from the next 5% of the way there?
Yeah.
So I don't know. But like, I don't know, man.
Okay, I think this is the point. Like the point when you ask about what are we ready to give to get to truth, like what are we ready to sacrifice to get to truth? Like at this point, this simplification of just saying we want to get closer to truth doesn't work out anymore. At this point, you have to look at what you want, what your goal is, and how useful it is. Like if you just say I want to get closer to the truth, this is a proxy for I want to do something useful for my goal, but I don't really know what my goal is. So, or I know that going to the truth is probably the best thing. It's like a heuristic for what is useful, because the truth is probably useful. So I just search for, instead of searching for something useful, I search for the truth. But now, when you ask yourself, okay, how much am I willing to give for the truth? Then you have to start to try to define, okay, what exactly is my goal? Or what are my goals, because it's not one. So what exactly do I try to achieve? And
I like this. Yeah. I like how it comes. Like it's like it comes
super connected.
It comes back around, right? Like if you go in the one direction, some questions are easier. If you go in other direction, some other questions are easier.
Yeah.
So it's like it's very interesting.
Yeah,
that's very interesting.
So to find this out, to find out what are you ready to sacrifice to get to the truth, I think for that we have to search, or we have to find out what is our goal and what does this imply for what we want.
Perfect. And on that note, I'm gonna stop it here, bro.
Perfect.
That was great.
Yes, I enjoyed this so much. See you.
This has been a One Deeper podcast. Thanks for joining, and I hope you learned something. Catch you again next time.